Hey, what's up? It's Rumor Innuendo. It's Friday. Everybody's feeling Friday. I'm Dominic D'Angelo of adfreeshows.com, SEScoops.com, One True Sport. But I am here with Sportskedia's very own Kevin Kellum. He was also...
You said Kedia. You did your
Well, how do
Pennsylvania
you say
thing
it?
where you add unnecessary vowels to words.
Sports Kyoto, like Mike Kyoto.
I don't mind. It's all right. Yeah. What did you say, Jeff Harvey, when he
Jeff
was on TV the first time? God bless him. God bless him. No, it's sports key. I don't care. But someone on the internet might, but that's okay. Dom, so good to be talking to you. You and I have known each other a long, long time in this whole wrestling media biz game.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And speaking of wrestling media, do you care if I have a little bit of a rant to start the show off? I have something I want to get off.
Is this in my general direction?
No, not at all.
Okay,
Not
all right.
at all.
I don't want the heat, brother. But cut it.
Have experience with it.
I probably do.
Kevin, have you ever had to pay for a wrestling interview?
Oh, like pay to interview somebody?
Pay to interview somebody.
You know what? I don't know if I individually have had to pay someone, but I think there's been times when maybe I've done one and a company I work for, or maybe a product tie-in, and it was a promotional thing, and there's maybe something like that transaction. But I can't say that I individually myself have done that.
Right, and you've interviewed pretty big names, correct?
Yeah, and I've interviewed names for a specific, like, they'll talk about a handful of things, but this is really a product they're endorsing, or they have a new project that they're coming out, and maybe there might be like an ad exchange or something like that, and the term would be paid content or something like that. But I'm honest and upfront about that. But I don't think I've never individually Venmo'd someone to do an interview. No, I've never done that.
Neither have I. And so, to a certain extent, when you look at the wrestling media landscape, quote unquote, you have a lot of lower level podcasts. You have a lot of people just trying to make the hustle, make things work, get their name out there, certain things like that.
It's everything. And you have this in gaming. You have this in every other genre on the internet. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. And so you're trying to make things work if you're on the lower end of the media, so to speak. And so I can certainly understand a wrestler or a person feeling value in paying a wrestler to do an interview and getting your name out there and helping them. And then from a wrestler's perspective, I understand the aspect of, hey, my time is valuable. I need to make the most of it. If I'm going on
my name is valuable. My
name, my time is valuable. Well, in certain cases, names are valuable. I'm going to get to this. But
oh boy.
So I think so your time is valuable. And so you want to make sure you're getting your name out there because your name might not be valuable yet. So here, I kind of understand the fact, maybe, lower end people paying for this stuff. But we're in the wrestling business. There's wrestle media outlets that get your name out there that, for better or for worse, you get written about. So when a talent who's maybe on the lower end, even in a major promotion, wants to charge you money, wants to charge people for their time, and an exorbitant amount of money, when in the grand scheme of things, you have major stars, top names. Seth Rollins, you interviewed Seth Rollins before.
Yes, I did. It was a very big moment in my career.
I've interviewed Mick Foley before. I've interviewed the Fonz, Henry Winkler before, just off the cuff.
And now his powers have been dusted upon you. You can walk up to any jukebox, hit it, and it turns on.
Hit it, and I didn't even have to pay for that. So when a lower end wrestler wants to charge media outlets to do an interview, it's a little egregious, a little self-aggrandizing, and quite frankly, a little disrespectful.
I'm doing the thing that everybody who's watching or listening right now on the podcast, full context, I'm a broadcaster. All right. That's what you pay for. I want to know who this is, yes. But I also know it isn't right to ask you.
Well, Kevin, I just don't want to get racist.
I am firing off a text to you so fast when we are done.
I don't want to get ratioed. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, all right. Ratioed. Yeah, I get it.
Let's move on. That's all. I wanted to get that off my chest. A little fired up about it, but that's okay. I think there needs to be a certain understanding when it comes to how you value your time, your name, and getting your name out there and understanding how media works. That's it. All right. Best of luck to everybody in their future endeavors. Let's get to it, though. We got Forbidden Door to cover. We've got SmackDown to cover tonight. And it's a big one because it's taking place in Madison Square Garden.
I was at SmackDown last week in Chicago. It was a big one then, too.
Give me your perspective on that. How was it being there live and in person?
Sold out.
Tuesday,
sold out. This is a legitimate sellout. This is their, I don't know how many sellouts in a row, specifically in Chicago. That's where I'm at. I'm at the Allstate Arena, huge market 3. I got to have some conversations with people at the Allstate Arena and some people close to the vest of the business that came into town. They're very, very happy about it. Very, very happy about it. WWE's making a lot of money in their live events right now. And there's things that Nick Khan has put into the way this company tours and pivots market to market that we don't see on the surface. That's the gist of what I got. And there were some things I can't be told, but that's okay. And it wasn't exactly me reporting, but me just kind of kicking the can. And none of this was off the record, but nothing more just insightful stuff, nothing you could really write an article about, nothing that fans really don't know. Oh, wow, the venue is very happy that the show is sold out. Of course they are. But, I mean, it's just nice to have a conversation with someone. And I was thinking, I almost asked the amount of money a show like this could be. But that's 14,000 people paid, right? The amount of comps that WWE is giving out, from what I've heard from multiple people, is very low. And I've worked in tandem with some stuff that WWE would do with my radio jobs, where there would be some advertising done. All right, we'll do an interview with you guys because we have some advertising with your outlet, and that's fine. There's nothing unethical about that. And I've been able to do some big interviews with that. When they were here in 2019, they had 4 nights at the Allstate Arena. They did around 10,000 was the arrangement each night. I think they had an NXT show, which was not sold out, but did well, 7,000-8,000 people. And that was 2019. It was nearly 5 years ago. Maybe they made more than like half those shows. They did 4 shows that weekend. They probably made more in one SmackDown. Now, some of that's inflation, some of that's adding 3,000 more seats. But WWE is a really hot product as a live thing now. And the house shows, they're not super sold out, but they're making more money, and the people that are coming to them are spending more money. The per capita spending per person on merchandise is up too. The localized merchandise show to show. I've gone to a lot of WWE shows for work. This is the first time I bought some merch. I was like, that's a cool looking Chicago shirt. I want to get that shirt. And that's just me. Does that make me a mark? No. It's just part of the business. We're there. They're getting a piece of the coin everywhere it turns. But big stuff. And then this Indiana news last week. I know you and Robert probably cover that pretty big, but there's some ripple effects of that across the Midwest.
Yes.
I've already been talking to people about chartered bus trips to and from Chicago and what the business is going to be like for that. So a couple of different things moving and grooving here.
Yeah, pretty darn neat. Chicago's quite the wrestling city. Pretty wild, too. You just think about
kind of crazy we don't have one of these big 4 pay-per-views. These are getting tossed around to Indiana.
Yeah, and you know what? It's like you think how synonymous, obviously, CM Punk is with Chicago and everything like that. And like him being in WWE now, it feels like such a big deal when WWE goes to Chicago. AEW had that vibe of we going to Chicago. Now it kind of seems like an after effect when
it's an 8-year deal. Did you hear that?
It's crazy.
It's spread out over 8 years.
Good for them. That's great. It's
nuts, man. Yeah. And it's not just, also, some people think it's just the premium live events. Indiana Business Journal put out a very detailed article about more things that kind of were there, but were glossed over in the initial reporting. This also includes events for other smaller towns in Indiana, including like some other pay-per-views they didn't mention. Some other Raw and SmackDowns are included in this. So they're probably getting like around over 10 major events across the entire state of Indiana in the next 8 years.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. What's interesting tonight is SmackDown. It's a good card, good lineup. They're ready to roll for the Madison Square Garden here with what they got. We got a women's Money in the
deal.
Bank. Fine.
Everything's elevated when you're in MSG, right? Everything feels
very much
more.
So. Very much. I'm curious too if WWE will embrace the look of MSG. Like they've kind of been more leaning towards a tendency of embracing what each venue looks like more so nowadays. It'll be neat to see if they don't make it look like your typical SmackDown here tonight. That's what I'm intrigued about.
You talking like when they would do those entrances where it was like that really short entrance way from the side?
Yeah, something like that. And they've kind of embraced some simplicity to what they do in regards to production and stuff like that when it comes to, hey, here's what the entryway
saw it in Chicago, got another 4,000 people in the building because of it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so you have the demand though. You have the demand for that. So.
Yeah. And the arena is its own character in a lot of ways when they do that kind of stuff. So, but we have women's Money in the Bank qualifying match. Candice LeRae taking on Jade Cargill, taking on Tiffany Stratton. We also have another one with Naomi, Blair Davenport, and Indy Hartwell. Plus, we have the men's Money in the Bank qualifying match, an interesting one here. LA Knight versus Logan Paul versus Santos Escobar. And then we have undisputed champion Cody Rhodes to appear. But not only that, but a pretty big segment coming up with Jacob Fatu hot off the heels. Bloodline acknowledgement ceremony. Plus, they're doing a 10-bell salute to Sika. So that's
and what a place to do it. What a special place for the Anawahi family's Samoan wrestling dynasty to be honored in a building that, of course, Sika is one half of the Wild Samoans. So well known. It's good to reference your history. Certainly something that's been a little bit more prominent in the past few years.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's such what a perfect venue for this. Like, because you think about how synonymous the Wild Samoans are in that area, in that WWF classic era of all that stuff. So it's what a fitting thing. Unfortunate he passed away so untimely. And what a tribute he's going to get tonight. It's going to be pretty darn cool to see that. And it all encompassing in the wrestling story too, of what the Bloodline's going to do. So what do you kind of expect to hear about with when it comes to Cody Rhodes? What do you think he's going to start saying here tonight, Kevin?
Well, I mean, they're building up to this match at Money in the Bank, which could be a schmoz in some way or another. But I mean, the end game here is Cody versus Solo. And when do you get to that? Are they going to make that clear? And obviously the addition of Jacob Fatu was wild last week.
Yeah,
it was more of an elaborate angle than a match. We were getting Cody versus Solo, which we've gotten Cody versus Solo before. And I think the idea of bitterness makes the heart grow colder is going to be what makes this match work, because it is a match you've seen before and you've seen Cody beat this guy before.
Right.
So how do you make this all work? Is it a little bit more messy to flip it around the other way and make it, here's a collective of people versus the Bloodline, which we've seen before? How do you make that dynamic work? But is the crowd quiet? Are they not illuminated by this prospect? I've heard some people say that Cody, he's already stale as a champion. I will say this, and I don't want this to be an ageist take, and I'm saying this as someone who enjoys a good long-term storytelling. I don't hear that from anyone who's over the age of 35 or over the age of 30. Everyone I hear telling me that, and maybe there's some other people too, are very fickle fans. And I will say this to the people that are faithful to Roman Reigns, who hasn't been on television. And then you also have the segment of people that just say they want Roman, right? They just want to see Roman back on television because he was such a big character too. And it's almost the kind of the downgrade. The downgrade is Roman was such a big character. Everything was built and revolved around him for such a long time. I mean, there were TV shows, weeks of television shows, where he wasn't present, but he was the central pivoting point of the show.
Yeah.
And I do think there's too many people that are still lingering and not getting over the idea of a post-Roman Reigns era that we're in. And he is a humbled performer. And he is no longer the dominating guy he was. By the way, he was never really a dominating guy. He was a chicken shiz heel who pretended to be a dominant heel. All right. He was the antithesis of a fighting champion.
Yes.
Yeah, and the thing is with Cody is you see him a lot, he fights a lot, he's good to the people. You don't know what you got. All right. He's a good dog. And what you want is a cat that doesn't respond to you calling its name all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what Roman Reigns is. So I say enjoy the dog you got and just wait for the cat to come back home at some point. But yeah. I think they can make this work and get it to some interesting points. Really a test for Solo, though.
It really much is.
Yeah.
He's put in the position. I think he gets criticized because he's so kind of stilted on the mic a little bit still. Still has.
He's not bad.
He's not bad by any sort of imagination, I don't think. I think I would call him above average even. On the microphone, I would give him that much credit. But I think people still want to criticize him because he's still in such a huge angle here. It's like he's replacing Roman, quote unquote. So it's like, all eyes are on him. He's almost like the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. Who's next in line? These are the expectations you have for that person. So then you have Solo in this situation where I think he's being elevated by the people around him. Like you have the Guerrillas of Destiny, you have Jacob Fatu. Now you also have Heyman, who's going to be an integral part of all of this.
Heyman is so entertaining in this role. The reluctant manager.
Yeah, the fearful, reluctant manager.
And he also is kind of like the embodiment on screen and in play here of fans who just miss Roman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like it's just being put in this wild situation that, we're so associated with not liking Heyman as this wise man, as this patsy to Roman Reigns' person. And now here we're put in that position of understanding where he's coming from here. Like, oh my God, this is such
all Jake saying this is the best Heyman ever. He also says, hey, cats rule. Both mine always come when I call them. Lol.
Nah, mine kind of does. Sometimes.
Yeah. He also says Cody's selling out arenas and the top merch seller. These children need to STFU.
Yeah, I think Cody really validated himself as a babyface. I think in some ways when it comes to like his matches with AJ, I think it showed that he has cachet in the long term for being a good babyface. That
also great matches.
Yeah,
matches. I know the AEW crowd says, AEW has better matches than WWE, and I can say that there's some bell to bell edges there, right? Yeah, but those matches were awesome. Oh, and anyone who's sleeping on them is like, come on, dude.
I am more engaged.
You're just taking out your tweezers. You're saying, well, it wasn't this, and it wasn't that, and it wasn't this, and come on.
I am more engaged in WWE's matches way more than I am in AEW currently.
Stories, characters.
Yeah, the athleticism is off the charts when it comes to AEW matches.
Also, we're just spoiled with great wrestling around the horn.
We really are. Yeah, and that's what's kind of great about this time period.
Yeah.
But any other things you want to say on SmackDown before we move on?
Excited to see what they can do with Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank is sort of a catch-all. It reminds me a little bit of Royal Rumble, where it's like, let's just make sure a lot of different people are simmering, not too hot, not too cold, and the Punk angle is with McIntyre is pretty cool. I talked about that on the radio this week. I got to talk about that on Q101 in Chicago, and it got quite the reaction. Just me talking about it on the radio to a mainstream audience.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I also think something's going to happen there, and we're going to get to that match. Money in the Bank shouldn't feel like a foregone conclusion as to who wins it. But I always enjoy Money in the Bank. The matches tend to be pretty good. But also that's another thing is they get judged the same way the Royal Rumble does. Is it as good as the last Royal Rumble? Is it as good as the last Money in the Bank you saw? So I do think they need to deliver on that. I remember last year's Money in the Bank being all right. You know what I mean? But I want a little bit more excitement out of the ladder matches. I want a little bit more hoopla, a little bit more hardcore, oh my God type stuff. I'd love that.
Yeah, the big takeaway from last year seemed to be Io Sky and what her situation
was. And that was a great interplay between her and Bayley. It was really entertaining. I wouldn't mind some exciting storyline swerves and stuff like that. And you have a handful of people you can do that with in both matches.
Absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see who qualifies tonight when it comes to I could totally see Tiffany Stratton making the cut there. And then
Tiffy time,
Tiffy climbing that ladder. Blair Davenport could be a good wild card. And then LA Knight and Logan Paul seem to be pairing up with one another. It would be kind of neat to see Santos Escobar qualify, elevate him while these two other guys are already elevated. So I would be intrigued by that, I think.
It'd be a big win for him too.
It'd be a big win. Hey, you know what else is a big win is when you take Blue Chew and it's in the bedroom. Things really happen really great. Yeah. So guys,
what happens? What happens? Can you describe it in graphic detail?
Let me tell you. And unlike some people in the wrestling business, you don't have to pay for this deal on Blue Chew. This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. Let's talk about sex. Guys, remember the days when you were always ready to go? Now you can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed. Listen up, BlueChew.com. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable tablets. And at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of our licensed They're licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Kevin. The best part about it, it's all done online, so no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the U.S. of A. Oh, hacksaw Jim Duggan, he doesn't pay for interviews either, and prepared your door in a discreet package. Does it work? Do you think you don't need it? Try it free and for a month, and you'll see you're gonna love it. Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. Discover your options at BlueChew.com. Chew it and do it. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code RUMOR at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com. Promo code RUMOR to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And hey, we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
I'm sorry. I always enjoy a good Blue Chew pun. And thank you to the fine people at Blue Chew. I know many people enjoy the product. I mean that sincerely. Antonio Santos saying, with Blue Chew, you don't need a rubber match. That is awesome.
That's a good one.
That is awesome. Oh, that is great. Yeah.
Maybe I should get the chat to kind of read a Blue Chew ad in some form.
And Antonio's saying, I think Dom just took a Blue Chew right now, but
I am pretty wired right now. Let me say that. Fired up and on coffee. I'm on all cylinders. Plus, oh my gosh, Kevin, we got Forbidden Door to look at here. And what?
Oh, wow.
What a hefty card. You want to talk about Long Island, New York. This is a Long Island card right here. It's a big time. Big time. So let's go run it down. We almost got to do this in quick fashion.
I know. I brought you right up to the wall with my rambling about how Chicago is cool.
All right. Let's start off with the big one. We got Swerve Strickland versus the AEW International Champion Will Ospreay for the AEW World Championship. Kev, before we, I guess, talk about this, what did you think of the build to this on the Go Home episode of AEW Dynamite? Were you intrigued? Were you like, I'm not really sold on this?
I'm right where I was when it started.
Yeah?
I'm right where I was when it started. I thought... I'm not saying I don't think Swerve is getting the proper presentation as a champion, but he feels... He reminds me of like when CM Punk got the title in WWE the first time, where it felt like, oh, you have the title, but you're not the guy, and that's not a disparaging thing to Swerve at all. Swerve is still very over. He comes out, he gets a very big reaction. He's had one of the wildest matches that they've had this year. That match with Hangman that people are still talking about. That is very controversial, but AEW needs to move the needle. And if they can do it in the ring instead of, playing backstage security tapes, do that. But I haven't seen or had Swerve embrace as much of that as I thought he would in the build-up to this. I'm not saying the edge is dulled, but I wanted to have more of that edge going into a match like this, especially on a show where everyone's going to be really hardcore. What can you do with your character that's hardcore? I was expecting a little bit more of that with Swerve kind of being fleshed out more as a champion or more refined, defined in that role.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, Swerve is doing great. He's great as a heel, great as a babyface, I think. He's just been bouncing in between that.
But that's it. That's it. What are you? At some point, it isn't broken to say, here's who you boo and here's who you cheer. I know everyone wants, but I do think that's a part of AEW's issue is
100%.
You just give people roles, and give them, and then trust them to have the best ability to perform those roles. And I just want to see more of a governor over some of these things.
Yeah. You look at guys like the Blackpool Combat Club. From one week they're a babyface, next week they're a heel, and sometimes even in different segments it can happen. It's just, I know. I want to see a delineation of what's going on here. But what do you think's going to happen here in this main event, Swerve versus Will? What do you think they're going to do?
Swerve. I'm going to say this. This is going to shock some people. I don't know if this is the time to put the title on Will Ospreay right now.
I agree.
And Will hasn't really taken a big loss in AEW really yet, and he's been featured a lot because he's very, very over. But you have two big names. I was thinking when they put this on paper, that's gonna be a great match. They're gonna do some great business with this.
Yep.
I'm not saying I'm disappointed with the build. I just expected more, and just on paper with the hype that both of them had going in, And I'm almost thinking, did they pull the trigger on doing this match too early? But they have to. They have pay-per-views. They have commitments to make and deliver for their fan base. But I do think they'll have the best match on the show, too. I think they'll get the most time, and I think they'll have the best match. And it'll be the same cycle we've seen with AEW before with the pay-per-view in general, where, the build was there, but the show was great. And they've had that with Forbidden Door before.
And in a lot of ways, too, sometimes that kind of match, if you put it on, can wash away any type of build concern.
Exactly.
Exactly. Like, an amazing match. We're not really going to be talking about the build of it anymore.
A lot of this with WWE a few years ago. Some people have said it's the reverse, where the builds are really great and the matches are all right, but they're not wow. With AEW, I think it's completely inverse and has been the pattern for about the better part of a year or so now.
Yeah, I agree, man. Jon Moxley versus Naito for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. This almost seems like, hey, they're going to give it back to Naito, and things are going to move along here. Moxley will get more involved with AEW, and then you have an established champion in New Japan in Naito. What do you think about that, Robert?
I was at the New Japan Windy City Riot show, and thank you to all the team there. I got to work for New Japan that day doing promotional stuff, so I got to see a little bit more of the back end of it. And there was no inclination to me, mind you, I didn't want to know of the results that they would have at that show at the Wintrust Arena, which is outselling, by the way, the next AEW Dynamite show coming up July 3rd, which I was surprised by.
Really?
Tickets, yeah, just a fair amount. I mean, the AEW is always a week of product, I think, in Chicago in terms of outside of like the pay-per-views when they run Dynamite here. The week of, they'll really push a lot of tickets. So I think they'll do great. This isn't me talking crap about them, but I was like, wow, they've really outsold them. And I remember hearing those numbers internally. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And that was a great show. And I remember the crowd being really, really surprised when Jon Moxley left and won the IWGP heavyweight title from Naito. He won New Japan's world title from a New Japan guy in the United States. That's a big hand for them to give, in terms of this partnership. Now I think that has to be given back. I also got to say this. I think someone from New Japan needs to get a clean victory over someone in AEW. And Moxley is a guy, I think you can take that loss. Absolutely. And I say, have it be clean. Like, we don't have to do all the overdone shenanigans. I do think they'll do something to BCC like that, though, too. Have them involved in this match.
I think that's a good call. And I think, Moxley could totally take a clean loss, be totally fine. And it elevates Naito once again. And New Japan needs that at this moment in time. Mm-hmm. TBS champion Mercedes Moné going up against the New Japan Strong Women's champion Stephanie Vaquer in a title versus title match. This just seems like, them playing goodwill with one another here. I think Moné will get this title, and she will be the belt collector, akin to Kenny Omega earlier in the year.
Here's my issue with these matches.
Mm-hmm.
We're already a few years into the Forbidden Door thing. I went to two of them. I went to one. I went to the first one they did maybe two. They did two in Chicago. I went to two. And they were both really good. This shouldn't feel like a foregone conclusion. These matches shouldn't feel like here's just here we maintain the ceremony of promotion versus. Then it becomes like bragging rights.
Yeah.
In WWE. Then it becomes like brand warfare stuff where it's just that, like AEW versus New Japan should still feel special as an attraction. I don't, and Mercedes Moné is one of the people that made the jump recently. And everyone's gonna lose. I'm gonna lose some stand with some people. She does not feel like the star she was a year ago. And I don't know why. I can't pinpoint it. I don't know if it's the promos. It's that, like, when she gets in the ring, she does some physical things, but she does not feel like the star she did a few years ago. I think she's a big deal still and can be, but she just doesn't feel like it. And I feel bad for Stephanie because she's a star who's on the rise. She's not a Mercedes Moné, but it should, you know what I mean? Am I wrong? I don't want to be naysaying.
Robin and I have talked about this several times about, like, while Mercedes is great in the ring, she's not as good on the mic. And, I don't think AEW has positioned her in the best light a lot of the times to feel
she's
like
the inverse of everything else. She's the inverse of like the other people where they're not produced at all, right?
Yes.
Or they're produced to a limited degree.
Yes.
And they, like her, I think you're overproduced.
Yeah.
I think there's too much.
Yes.
Put in front of it. That's just the way I read it as somebody who's been on the other side of production. Like,
well,
I kind of have to level that with everybody else.
I think too, Kev, is like, there was such high expectations for Mercedes, and like, a lot of this, what's been happening in AEW, a lot of this star power responsibility was shouldered onto her. The expectations were on her to be like, okay, you got to bring this product back up to where it used to be. And,
but that was the talk.
That was the talk.
That was the talk. Like,
Big
I don't want to feel like I'm naysaying or saying these things because I want to just talk. No.
Yeah.
You come in, you say those things, and this is where we are.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is where we are. And
I think AEW's done her a disservice in certain ways. And I think, it all falls on everybody. The responsibility is on everybody. But I think, Mercedes is talented. I think she is a star. I think there's a lot to that. But it's like you want to position them in the right way. And AEW has never been good at that. The only person
can I respond to a comment here? Somebody has a comment here.
Uh-huh.
Wrestling Old Head. Kellum, thank you. Saying my name with an E. I don't mind it. With the bullseye. Monet needs to be produced like WWE, and it doesn't fit in AEW. No, it does. It was overproduced after it was underproduced.
Mm-hmm.
So like she comes in, she gets to say exactly what she wants. That's what wrestling fans want. We want to hear exactly what the wrestler wants. You want to hear that, but does that serve the story? I don't know if it does. She comes out, she cuts this long-winded promo. I'm really great. And then a month later, 2-3 months later, her first match, she's the heel with Willow Nightingale. It's erratic, and the fans turn on things and turn on people. Is she a heel now? It seems like it. But then you're having her go in and take in somebody from another promotion who fans are not familiar with, all right? They're not familiar with. They respect her. They know the name, but they're not familiar with her. This match should have been a triple threat and worked in another name that's on television all the time, or been a multi-woman affair, and that could play up to the idea of, I'm holier than thou. No, it's all right. Wrestling Old Head, you're fine. I don't know if being produced like WWE is the same thing. No, you need to do different things. If it's the edginess, great. If there's a Neil Pusher thing you can do, great. If there's something you can say that WWE can't do, great. If there's things you can do with your entrances, great. What can we do that they're not doing that's just a little change? Not too much of a change, because they went all the way over the head and wrote way too much for it. It was way too scripted. It's way too WWE 2018. Here's every word you need to say before you go out on screen. That's not her strong suit. Give her some bullet points and she'll nail this, because she cut great promos when she was NXT. She cut great promos when she was in WWE. I don't think she's a bad promo. I just think she's a heel out of the gate. That should have been the thing. Hey, nice promo. Now I'm kicking you bitches around, and then just go for it. But the problem is it's too wishy-washy. Way too wishy-washy.
Here's the disservice they did to her as well. None of the other women, with the exception of Toni Storm, were elevated to a Mercedes Moné level in AEW.
And here, God bless Toni Storm. She did it by being a character. She did it. This will piss people off if you're an AEW fan. I'm not doing this to piss you off. She did it by doing sports entertainment.
Yeah.
She did it by being an outlandish, over the top, I would dare say 80s style WWE character.
Yeah.
Where it is character above all. Character, shenanigans, a lot of Memphis tricks she's done. I've worked with other people that worked in Memphis and stuff like that. There's a lot of Memphis things she does. There is a lot more of show than tell. And then on top of it, the Attitude Era, the double entendres and jokes, easily the most entertaining and funny character they have on television. Probably more than even Orange Cassidy, which is shocking to say.
Yeah, those are a lot of the characters that I get engaged with. And I think the fan base that really AEW should try to embrace and try to make for everybody there involved. I mean, obviously you want your, you don't want to go over the top with sports entertainment gaga stuff, but finding that balance of what makes wrestling so fun is that kind of stuff. So
every time someone says gaga in wrestling, I just think Lady Gaga. Gaga.
Ooh
la la. Yeah. We've already gone over our time, haven't we? We're already at a time limit.
Let's do the speed stuff here. A ladder match for the vacant TNT title. Oh my god.
What? You can't remember one of the 19 championships in AEW, Dominic?
No,
come on now.
I just always struggle with the name. Konosuke Takeshita. Did I say it right? Takeshita.
You just say Konosuke. The only times I messing up someone's name on a voiceover and I say, let me just say the first name and the last name. Which one can I go?
I used to nail it all the time before I started the show, and then when I got it's the complete
pop another blue chew.
That's it. Mark Briscoe, Jack Perry, Dante Martin, Leo Rush, and one to be determined. Kev, who are you going with on this one?
Well, it'll be surprise entrance, right? We're getting the old AEW TNA trick of who's gonna. They're not supposed to be in the Dynamite zone. You know, like are we gonna get that moment? Is that what we're supposed to get here?
I think so. I could just imagine a Shelton Benjamin coming out.
That'd be wild. Shelton Benjamin be the fun one, right? But whoever that person is, they have to win this thing, right?
Not in AEW, I don't think.
Yeah, true. They don't have to win because it's almost like a Royal Rumble thing. Oh, big surprise return to the Royal Rumble doesn't mean you win it, right?
Yep. Maybe who are you going with in this match? Are you going with Jack
Perry?
I
almost want whoever walks out there to be the big winner, and it'd be fine, right? It's a little bit of a showcase for a bunch of different people with a bunch of different things going on. Forbidden Door sometimes does feel like I wouldn't say non-canonical, but it doesn't have as much canon tied to week-to-week television as AEW does with other stuff. That's why I think the ratings took that hit a couple weeks ago, especially when they're up against big competition. I wonder what the number is going to be like today because they were up against the debate too. People forgot about that. A lot of people watch the debates. That crap show. And so, man, these presidents got to learn how to cut promos, man.
So more pro wrestling than pro wrestling is politics.
Come on, buddy. All right. Heel's got to be a heel and face got to be a face. Let's go. So my thought process is Jack Perry would be a fun one because he's a real, you need some real shitty people to win titles, right? And he's a shitty character. I don't like him, right? You're not supposed to like him, by the way, with heels. Did you remember that with wrestling fans? You're not supposed to like the bad guys. And I think having a easy title win for him would be the way to go here.
I would love to see them completely pivot.
Not easy, sleazy.
Ooh, yes. I'd love to see them completely pivot based off the last couple of weeks and be like, hey, let's give the title to Mark Briscoe and see what happens. Because that'd
be a feel-good win.
That would be a feel-good win. What he's been doing on AEW has, I think, elevated the show, made it the most interesting part of the show.
He's been one of the more entertaining guys, but I also think he's kind of Teflon in terms of his place in residency in the hearts of fans because of everything that he's gone through and the sheer brutality. He reminds me a little bit of a Mick Foley, where he's a guy. He's like, oh, he's not the prettiest guy. Doesn't matter. Fans love him. Fans love him. Fights hard.
Like what WWE did. I think they should ride with that momentum with Mick. Like what they did with Mick, they should ride with Mark.
I agree.
So I'd be totally down for him winning it. I'll just go on a limb and just say he'll win it just for the hell of it. Toni Storm versus Mina Shirakawa for the AEW's Women's Championship. Outright, I think this is probably the most well-told story that AEW has done in a while. And I think it speaks to both competitors here as well as Mariah May involvement too. So
I know Mariah May taking a hard blow, an accidental. Oh, I did not mean to touch you.
Yeah,
and Toni Storm, smothering her face in people's chests and all those different things. There'll be some shenanigans, all right. And Toni Storm will leave with the title, but there will be shenanigans and sexual entendre and suggestiveness and all those different things. So yeah, I think if you want your outlandish Toni Storm, you're going to get it, and she's going to leave with the title.
I think Mira should be a person that Tony Khan really tries to snag up here too. I think she's doing some really fun work in here too, and she has a great ring presence and personality. So she would be an excellent addition to the women's division full time. Here's a big one: Bryan Danielson versus Shingo Takagi in the Owen Hart Cup tournament match, opening round. Got to go with the American Dragon on this one, right?
American Dragon. I know it seems like we're really leaning on the AEW side of things, but the shocking thing and the character thing to do would be having Danielson lose. And I'm a big Bryan Danielson fan. As somebody who covers wrestling, he is my number one wrestler. He is my number one favorite wrestler that when I know he's on a show, that is the match I need to not go to the bathroom. I just need to watch that. I will watch his show and not take out my phone. Like, I adore him as a performer and an artist and somebody who should have a place in wrestling long after he's an in-ring performer. Yes. But the story they've been telling it with him under the surface, which I don't think they've done a great job with this match, is can he win big matches anymore? Yeah, you're the greatest wrestler of your generation. But maybe that's not your generation anymore. Has time passed Bryan Danielson? Does he not have the finishing touch anymore, as he lost his edge, and that's something they kind of alluded to in some ways and different things like that. But how many big matches has he lost for them on pay-per-view? They build up to these matches and he loses, which now you've almost played yourself into the corner with it, where all right, so then he beats Shingo, then you build him up for another one to lose. You know what I mean? I was like, I think the more long-term storyline thing is he just messes it up and loses. And he's got to go back to the drawing board. He's got to reprogram himself. He has to find the fire of the dragon once again.
Ooh. You could do that in the finals though too. I think he could go
I do think that, but the tournament thing with him is really, really fun. You know, he's a guy who wanted to do the G1 climax, but I don't know if that's good for his health with the way he wants to wrestle. But I see him winning it. But my fantasy booking is something goes wrong, and you go into the character route with him.
Yep. All right. I'm going Danielson on that one.
I just feel like AEW is winning all these big matches, though, too, by the way.
Right.
This is still AEW versus New Japan, and all these AEW New Japan matches, we picked the AEW guy.
Here's one that's a little more both AEW, so we don't have to worry about it here. The Elite, Okada, and the Young Bucks going up against Tanahashi, Max Caster, and Anthony Bowens. Who you going with that one there, Kev?
Doesn't matter.
Not really.
See, that's where we're at. Doesn't matter.
Does it matter?
You know? Does it matter?
Acclaimed. I'm going to Acclaimed and Tanahashi.
They need it more than the Elite do.
But then that diminishes Okada too, who's already kind of been in this like
flash finish. You do a flash finish. You do a flash finish, like a roll up or something like that. Somebody doesn't take a finisher or something like that. And like they got out of it. No, we're not gonna have this. And then the Elite's gonna start firing and super kicking everyone in the hallway on Wednesday night. We're not gonna have this, and we're the corporate bad guys. You know? I did enjoy Okada's segment where he was messing around with the controls.
Oh, that's great.
Screen. Yeah. Like I was like, give him more. You have these Japanese performers, and English as a second language is a challenge for anyone. I've worked with people that speak a second language, and I'm marveled at their ability to work around that and find things. And when I see stuff, I'm like, you went to WWE, they could have figured something out, and it would have been just as cool. You know?
Just as cool, no doubt.
Yeah.
All right. So you're going with who on this one? You going?
I'm going with the Acclaimed as well. Okay. I think it doesn't matter. It just keeps this. This is too much on the show. Feels like keep the stove hot type situations. I want finality and payoffs and stuff like that too.
Absolutely. All right, we got to speed up because I forgot I had a show to do at 1 too as well. So.
What do you got next? Running from one microphone to the next. What do you got, Don? Tell where you're going to be.
Guys, tune in live for the Wrestling Mat with Matt Camp. I produce his show and he does a great job.
Shout out to Matt Camp.
Yeah, shout out to him. He does great work.
I read a little statement he put out there. Made itself rounds. Somebody's worked for a media organization. Yeah. Shout out to Matt. And I was proud of his candor and honesty with it. That didn't feel blindly negative or selfish.
No, it wasn't at that at all. It was more so.
As somebody's been through the ringer in professional media, I felt for him in that regard. And I also feel for the people that have to hand out those decisions as well.
Yeah. It's a business is a business. And that's, unfortunately, even though we're on the receiving end of losing out on it, we understand it too. It's just the name of the game.
Are you saying we're losers, bud?
Yeah, we're a bunch of losers here. Who's going to be a loser between Zack Sabre Jr. and Orange Cassidy, Kev?
I think this is a comedy match. I think they do a bunch of ridiculous. Yeah, I think they do a bunch of ridiculous stuff in it. I think Zach is a guy who loves to play. He's down to goof, and I think Zach wins.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on that one. I think Zach will win too because
Orange is over. Doesn't need to win. Doesn't need to lose.
And I think he'll. And they're furthering a story with him. I think too. MJF taking on Hechicero. Got to be MJF, right?
Yeah. That's it. That's my analysis.
That's it.
That's why you booked me.
Okay. Well, let's.
I'm sorry, but I was surprised they put him with God bless Hechicero. I thought a bigger name from New Japan would come over and have a match with MJF.
Yeah, it just seems like
evil. So somebody like more prominence you could have had a bigger match with.
Right. Like, hey, what about Suzuki? I know he's in the other.
They're going to have him and Jericho, right? Him and Jericho are going to have a match?
Yeah. I would have much rather seen MJF and Suzuki. But
is that announced? Because they teased it on Wednesday.
I don't see it on the card here that I copied and pasted.
Minoru called him out, right?
He
and
did.
Like Jericho was presenting like he was going to be his tag team partner. But I can see that being a kickoff match too. By the way, they could add that on like Friday, right? And then what is the show? Sunday. So like they could add that maybe even Sunday. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, the other match listed on the card: Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata taking on the aforementioned Jericho, Big Bill, and a partner to be announced.
Maybe they save that Minoru Suzuki match for like something else. I completely forgot about this scenario because once they brought in Minoru and he said, "I want to fight you, Jericho." Ha ha ha! He used like all like they did all that. Minoru is such an expressive character too. I always enjoy watching him. Sorry for forgetting Samoa Joe and everything like that. And they've had some fun with this one. Of those multi-man matches, they do a lot of these multi-man matches on Forbidden Door. This one's way more intriguing than the Elite one.
Yes, I agree.
The story has been way more well done, and the learning tree stuff is heelish, but it's baseline heel. It's not the most exciting stuff I've seen Jericho and his camp, but everyone's trying to play their role with it and get it over, but it takes time, and I'll give him a little bit more time on it. But Joe has fun in AEW. He's the guy who's like he feels like a way bigger star than he did on the tail end of him in WWE. Not to say that stuff was bad, but that's a jump where I was like, Mercedes Moné, they should be like this. Yeah. But no, I enjoy it. I think Learning Tree needs a win, though. You need to keep that group over.
I'm with you. It's I think Joe and Hook are great as a
because they're new. They're new, good, and they're defined as a faction. A lot of what Jericho does is like work with a faction, work with a group.
I like Shibata a lot too in his role too. He's doing great stuff. But yeah, real quick pre-show match, not on the card, but it's a pretty important match. Mariah May taking on Saraya in the tournament match is on a pre-show. Who do you got there for that one, real quick, Kev?
I just see Saraya in a pre-show match. I'm like, wow. Like I was bringing up Jericho in a pre-show match or something like that. Maybe they do a pre-show angle with him and Minoru more than anything. Saraya should be such a bigger star.
She really should.
She should be such a bigger star. And this is something that was alluded to on social media, and then stuff got deleted, and like that type of thing. The tweet and delete, that type of stuff that people do. Screenshots get out there. But Saraya,
I'm with you too. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I'm saying
Mariah is a supporting character. She plays a role well. Do some shenanigans.
Make it happen. Kev, where can they find you guys at?
You can follow me on Sportskeeda Wrestling. We're doing a lot of really, really cool stuff, though. We're doing these deep dive essay formats, which is some people say is already feels like a played out formula for wrestling videos. But I really, really enjoyed what we've been doing recently. We did one about Triple H's master plan for CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. That just dropped a few hours ago, already 4,000 views. So if we're doing stuff, it's moving. We also did the issues with making Cody Rhodes your champion, and then that's on the Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel. We also do a live podcast with them every Monday afternoon. I did a really, really good one about the experience of WWE at SmackDown and different things that are going on with WWE in Indiana. That is up right now. You can check that out. Just a lot of cool stuff. Go check out Sportskeeda Wrestling. I'm also on air with Q101 in Chicago, Chicago's Alternative Rock. We're giving away tickets to Riot Fest. You can do that at our website, q101.com. Big rock show with Slayer and all that good stuff. Comedy-wise, very busy. Roast Battle Chicago, the #1 rated roast battle in the world. Produced by our fine show, and you can watch that on our Patreon for $5. $5 little dollars. Give us your money, and we'll make it worth your while. So go check it out. It's on all my different socials. If you're an Instagram person, I'm on Kev Kellum 6.
Yes, give him a follow. He's at Ultimate Pro, the Ultimate Pro Kev Kellum. I'm Dominic.
Didn't mean to make the show go 20 minutes longer than
that's okay. Guys, you can see me every Monday at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on RVDTV.com. One of a kind with RVD. We just recorded a live episode last night. We had over almost 10,000 people tuning in live. 10,000 people. And we talk about
10 G's. 10 large.
A&E biography was what we covered. And we had some great discussion there. So
I saw a good chunk of that. I didn't get to finish the whole thing. I saw like the first 10 minutes of it. I was like, everyone, they do these A&E biographies on people you've already watched a documentary on before. And you're like, all right, but then they see you're like, oh,
Yeah.
Okay. They do a very good job on those, especially if it's somebody you think you already know a whole lot about. They'll go a little bit. The Mick Foley one, they did that. Where I thought I heard every great Mick Foley story, and they did a lot of other stuff with them that was really cool.
Absolutely. So, guys, check that out. Go to rvdtv.com. That'll be live on Monday. On Monday at 4:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That'll be up and for you to listen to. You can get early at onetruesport.com. So be on the lookout for that. Guys, this has been a fun one. Follow us on ad-free shows. Be sure to like, subscribe, get the word out about the show. Me and Robert have a blast doing it, and it's a blast having Kevin Kellum on.
Oh, wait. Are we going to cover Billy in the CW? Because I'm a watcher of the show, and I've always been excited to finally get to that story.
Yeah, well, I was going to get Billy on here, but he was going to charge me for an interview, so I don't think so.
He's in Chicago. You guys should have asked me. I would have used my Chicago connections. I would have smashed some pumpkins and got a hold of them.
Ooh, okay. Well, maybe we can make that happen.
Still just a rat in a cage, bud. Still just a rat in a cage.
Yep. REM for life, guys. See you next time here on Rumor and Innuendo.